because one of the questions was, I feel hopeful about the future. It was like 75% of kids said, no. Like, oh my gosh, what are we doing in schools? Every assignment a student does, it's for the teacher. And the teacher assesses it, the teacher gives it back, and then it's done. If there's a test, everybody writes the same test. Why? How is the child going to feel inspired or pushed to do the best they can if they know that the best is just for a grade or for teacher feedback? I think we underestimate kids. And we don't realize how much they can do, especially if they're passionate. Well, there's a stigma about homelessness. We're like, oh, maybe there's something in their students could do. So the students took that and they said, yeah, we could write the stories of how Blue Door helps people and the impact of this company on changing that homeless experience. And then they invited in town councillor that had voted no.
Oh, wow.
And they presented it to him. And at the end of the session, the fellow said, maybe I voted wrong.
Yeah.
That's impact.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Learn It podcast. Cindy, I'm so excited to have you joining us today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
It will be so much fun. And we were doing a bit of research. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but you had your first internship in West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You can, we were talking behind the scenes. Africa is a very special place for me as well. But for those that don't know you and don't know anything about your journey, started an internship in West Africa. Today, head of school at Pickering College. How do you get from point A to B over the
What happened in
decade?
between?
Yeah, what happened in between?
A lot of things.
Yeah, if you can walk our listeners through what that journey has been like for you, that would be incredible.
Well, I started off as a chemistry major. And I really was keen about X-ray crystallography and reaction mechanisms, coordination chemistry, that sort of thing. And then I got in the lab and it was so lonely, so lonely. And I thought, oh, what am I doing here? Like I wasn't in the right place,
Okay.
So I was literally looking in the Queen's University school newspaper and thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I've just graduated. I don't know. And this is where I saw internships with the U.S. State Department, actually.
Okay.
And they were hiring for international schools. And I thought, let's see what this is like.
Yeah.
So I applied, and then they said, we like you, and you're kind of quirky, and you've got something to offer, and you're a learner. And they said, we'll put you in the pool. So I was like, okay.
Like a swimming?
No, like the pool
like a swimming teacher?
The pool of candidates who they will hire from. But they said, you're going to get a random call. This is back in the day before the internet, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get a random call, and it'll be somebody from a school anywhere in the world. And they'll interview you in 20 minutes because you're already in the pool, right?
Yeah.
And if they like you, they'll offer you the job. And if you say no, you have one more try. And then you're out of the pool, you're out of the system. That's it.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, let's see what this is, right? So the first call I got was from a man named David Eaton. And he was head of school at International Community School at Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa, Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
And he's asking me all these questions and I'm on the phone, my little nervous person. And I have no idea. Where's West Africa? What's in West Africa? Where is Abidjan?
You're like pulling up your map on the side.
Exactly.
You're like, where am I going?
I'm flipping through the atlas. And I was nervous that if I said no, I would lose the job, right?
Right.
So I said yes to the job before even finding the location on the map.
Oh
Can
my
you
God.
believe that?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You really wanted to get out of chemistry. Yeah.
Or just to do something different, and just to see the world. And that whole experience led me on a journey where I realized that I love learning. And I love learning about different people, different places, and teaching and learning and all of that. So that led me down a whole route where then I came back and did my BEd and my MEd and did different things in Canada. But throughout my journey, I then worked at the international school. Well, international schools all through, but in Egypt, then Saudi Arabia, then Morocco, then Trinidad, and then most recently Korea.
Oh, wow.
So all of that was 30 years, just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably goes by really fast when you're traveling around.
Yeah. You feel like you're in a time warp, Yeah. Everything is almost like what feels like in Canada 1 year feels like it's, 3 years elsewhere because you're just, I don't know, it's fast paced. The world is different.
Would you have done anything differently?
Would I have done anything differently? I don't know. Your journey is your journey. You learn a lot along the way. And I made lots of mistakes and learned as I went. I don't know. I feel like I've been really lucky to live the life I have. So
yeah. And so when you found out that you're going to West Africa, was there a moment being like, holy, I shouldn't have said yes? Or were you more excited? Yeah.
The biggest moment when I arrived, I was delayed, 24 hours in Paris.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't contact them to tell them I was late.
Oh,
so when I got in, there's not a lot of infrastructure in Abidjan. There wasn't back in the day. This was 1990, right?
Yeah.
And I landed and there was nobody waiting for me at the airport. It was like 1:00 in the morning. And I thought, oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't even have
Take the flight back.
I didn't have any way to contact them. I was literally unprepared. And I slept the night just on the floor in the airport, hoping that the next morning somebody would come. Yeah. And yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah. Of course,
great.
everything worked out fine.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you spent, I know you mentioned all the different countries that you went to.
Mm-hmm.
You spent 10 years in Korea,
Yeah.
I believe at Branksome Hall as the head of their school over there.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you? I mean, I know that was relatively more recent, if I could use that.
That was my last school before coming back to Canada.
Last one before coming back to Canada.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like? And if you can even share a little bit about what was the experience like just moving around so much? Because I'm sure you've seen so many different school systems by this point.
Yeah.
How Cote d'Ivoire works in their school is likely very different than what we see in Canada.
Yeah.
So what was that?
And what resources you have available, how people think about what teaching and learning
is.
Exactly. All of those things are different. Yeah. Cultural norms are different. Yeah, very much. I think for me, that was probably one of the most exciting things, was seeing how it can be different. And then also kind of looking down on the world and seeing a bigger picture. And I think I've spent my whole life kind of doing that. Like even, we're having a conversation, but I'm kind of looking at myself from above thinking, what am I learning from this, And I've done that my whole life. So I feel like that's one of the things that makes it really exciting to be here right now at Pickering College, because I'm taking all that learning and seeing what worked really well, what was really important, what seemed to have value and meaning, right?
Yeah.
For learning for kids. And now I can kind of package that together with the amazing team here to create something that's the best of all, you know?
So what was one thing you learned at every country? If you could go country by country, one thing you learned about education that you didn't know before.
Oh, good Lord. I don't know. Okay. So West Africa, a lot of the students that came to the school, it was at the time of, the AIDS pandemic was really quite bad. And a lot of the people that were there were the sons and daughters of workers who were in the industry, doctors who were trying to figure out what was happening with this epidemic, people that were there doing aid or research or whatever. So there was a lot of that. But then there were a lot of local students that went to the school. And the parents would kind of look at their children and pick one because they maybe could afford one and there was a little scholarship and some help. It wasn't a huge expense, but it was an expense. And they would pick one child and think, I think you have potential, right? And then that child would come to the school. But maybe after a year, if the child didn't do that well, then the parent might say, oh, I picked the wrong child.
Oh, no,
and I'm going to pick a different child to come to the school, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
So what I learned there was, one, how difficult it is to understand a global, pandemic and what was happening at the time, and the complexity with what was happening, because I had firsthand access to these doctors and aid workers and whatever, because it was a small place. But then I also learned firsthand from the locals how valuable education was, and how they really felt it would make a difference.
It wasn't something that was just given to them.
Yeah.
They had to fight a little bit.
And what it meant for student success, it completely changed my thinking, because I would never want that child to not get that opportunity. And I would never want the parent to think that child wasn't successful or didn't have that potential that they saw in them. I'd want even more children to come, right? So thinking about what success means was a big part of it. In Egypt, it was really playful society. There were lots of practical jokes, and the people were really, really playful, lovely people. And the kids there reminded me to laugh and to really just enjoy the personal side of the connection that you make with the child,
What
so
grades
many
were you
fun.
teaching there?
It was senior school there. So much fun, yeah. And in Egypt, the history is that there've been so many kind of takeovers in the country over hundreds of years. But they were always asking, "Do you like my country? Do you like it here? What do you like about this country?" And it almost felt like there wasn't that same confidence that you might get in other countries. It's a strange thing, and I'd never really experienced that before, so it was interesting. In Saudi Arabia, it was more families would do anything to give their children the opportunity for the best schooling that they could get. So we had a lot of the secondary. We weren't in the oil fields. We were in the secondary industry. So where they have like the ethylene cracker and the paint whiteners, the sulfuric acid plants, those types of things. So our students were mostly kind of the children of the technicians and the people that ran the secondary industry. So, and they were mostly from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. They were third country nationals, right?
Okay.
And they weren't always treated that well in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And they were there because it was this huge opportunity for them to bring their whole family and have their children be educated in phenomenal school. And I guess, what did I learn there? I learned just how important it is when you can have a child who's really, really motivated, how far they can go if you just give them a little bit of extra opportunity. And what they can do independently is remarkable. Those kids were amazing, really amazing. Trinidad was more of a community school where it was just like the culture was, we be Lyman, man, and why are you working so hard? I remember, so often they'd say, it's like 7 o'clock at night, go home. What are you doing? I'm like, but I work hard. And not that they didn't, but that they really valued community and really valued time together with family. It was so important. And I guess each place was kind of a reminder about all the pieces of the balance that you need to live a good life. And what does it mean to be successful? What does it mean to be a hard worker? You have to work hard with your family as well, and with the relationships that you want to keep, and with education that you want to instill, and inspiration you want to help someone find, all the things. So anyway,
And Korea?
Korea, their religion is education. The most important thing they will ever do in their life will educate their children. And they would go into huge debt to give their child any opportunity that they could. And they really believe in the balance of, my child needs to learn an instrument, play a sport, do all the things, a little bit of everything. Hardworking, sincere, honest people. It was, there was something really amazing about every culture, and slightly different about every culture too, Yeah.
I mean, that's also part of what makes it so special, is because you get to experience all of that. And then to your point, you bring it back to Pickering over here.
Yeah. And how that collectivist versus individualist kind of mindset also influences things with the East and the West. And it's been a really amazing journey.
Absolutely. And talk to us about, your first day here. Let's go back to when it was first day at Pickering College, right? It has a lot of history behind it. Very, very rich history.
Yes. This is the second oldest independent school in Canada.
There you go. I didn't know that. That just
1842.
1842. That's very rich in this history. I mean, you could tell even by the environment, you could tell there's something different about it.
25 years before Canada was formed as a country.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm doing the math right. It was 1867 was the Federation, right?
Yeah. You are the first head of school as a female to take over this position. What does that mean to you? What does that even look like? I mean, I'm sure that you, based on everything you've shared, you have a lot of really, really strong experience. I mean, I will hire you anytime, right?
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I mean, you should be hiring me, but in either way, what was that like your first day at Pickering, when you, even knowing that, okay, it's the first time that this school is being led by a woman?
I don't know. Those things don't really register with me in the same way they might with someone else. When I did my undergrad, there were 116 chemistry majors, and there were only 4 of us were female. So I'm used to being in an all male kind of crowd. I don't care. That didn't weigh heavy on me. But what did is I was replacing this beloved man. Peter Sturb is his name. Just an amazing headmaster, and he'd been here 27 years.
Oh, wow.
And beloved. And then you're coming in, you're thinking, you're
going
to deal with somebody new.
Yeah.
And how will they accept me, and how will that be? And that weighed more on me. And, I was thinking about this the other day. So I'll tell you a story. At the end of my first year, you give all the graduation speeches for all the different crowds, right? The grade 12 graduation, I thought, I want to tell a story. I want there to be something that maybe people will remember, because you hang on to a story more than like advice or something.
Yeah.
So I told a story about the development of insulin. So there were 4 researchers, right? Banting and Best were the 2 well-known. And then there was McLeod and Collett. And these 4 guys who developed insulin, they fought like crazy with each other. And they were mean to each other in their fighting, publicly, privately. Collett, who refined the actual, first serum for insulin, he hid the recipes so that the others wouldn't get it. But here they're developing, a groundbreaking.
Yeah, it's going to change the world.
It's changed the world. Like insulin changed everything. Yet they fought together. So in my speech, I talked about the story of that. And I said, what does it mean to be successful? Does it mean that I was successful because I got the credit? Or I was successful because I somehow made us be able to work together? Or because I did something meaningful within this thing? Or what is success?
Yeah.
Is being a good person part of being successful? I don't know. Maybe it's not, right? So I asked that question. And sitting in the front row was the headmaster, Peter, the old headmaster, Peter Stirrup. And I thought, well, I'll tell this little story and ask them to think about this in their journey as they move on to be successful beings, right? And underlying that was the values of the school.
Yeah.
And afterwards, nobody said a word about the speech. And now it's often common. I give a lot of speeches, and it's very often that no one will say any word at all to me about any speech I give. It's speechless. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, whatever, But then after I started thinking about him, and I thought, if he had given a speech, he would have talked about the individual students and who they were and told stories about them, right? And I started feeling like, maybe my speech wasn't very good and maybe I'm not doing a good job. You start getting those doubts, right? And he would have done such a better job. And maybe they didn't feel, because you don't get any feedback.
Yeah.
And I didn't dwell on it and I didn't overthink it, but I just thought, maybe I'll change it next time.
Yeah.
And that was that. And in my mind, I always kind of thought, that was kind of not a good speech, But whatever. So now, last week, we had our golf tournament. There are lots of events. It's an independent school. We do lots of things to bring the community together. And I went around and talked to all the people and thanked them for coming. And this couple was there. And I hadn't seen them in 3 years. I didn't remember them, in fact. Yeah. And they said, our daughter graduated 3 years ago. And we've come back to the golf tournament just to support the school. Yeah. I'm like, that's great. And I said, 3 years ago, that would have been my first year at the school.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you remember anything about insulin?
I was thinking, oh gosh. And I said, it's so lovely that you're here. And then and I said, did I meet you before? And they said, yeah, the only time you ever met us was at the graduation. And I said, oh, that's lovely. I'm so glad you're part of the community. And they said, I wanted to tell you, this is last week, 3 years later, I wanted to tell you how great your speech was.
Yeah.
And I went, are you kidding me?
Should have told me that 3 years ago. Yeah.
And they said, no, we remember everything you said. And I felt like I learned something through the speech. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because you never really know, so what did I take away from it? I took away from it, you don't really know what other people are thinking unless you ask them, unless you talk to them. Yeah. Right? And two, people aren't expecting you to be the other person. It's okay to be yourself. And it's okay that different leaders are different in who they are and what they bring to the table. And that allows a school to grow and develop in different ways because you've got a different leader, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you bring your best self to the table, be the best leader you can be, and kind,
doing your job,
then it's okay. You don't have to be the other person.
Yeah.
And I guess, it's nice to have that little reminders every once in a while,
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I mean, I know that I think I've felt that pressure too when you take over for anyone that's loved. And you're like, innately, you're like, should I just do what they did so that I am also loved? And it doesn't feel like that person went away. But sometimes it's important to say, but I'm different and I lead this way and I don't do this, but I do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a very interesting question. What was your transition plan like? Like, was it like you were sitting down with who you were taking over from and saying, walk me through everything you have done at the school? But I'm just curious to know because 27 years serving is a long time.
Yeah.
There's so much knowledge there. There's so much history. There's a lot over there. It's up. Were you mostly like, just tell me about what you know about the kids and I'll do my thing? Or was it like, tell me everything you know? How would you suggest even an incoming leader, an incoming principal, head of school, and they're going to a new school? Yeah. How should they transition into that school?
I don't know the best way to do it, but I do think that having continuous dialogue is the thing. Because I know at any point, even now, 3 years later, I can pick up the phone and call Peter Stirrup and say, in the history of the school, when blah, blah, blah happened, tell me about this. Because sometimes things will come up. Or, people that have been here a long time. How did you deal with it when, these two people are in conflict right now? What do you know about the history of their relationship or something?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not a one-off. It's that continuous dialogue, but also recognizing that, you want to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to be a good leader if you're trying to be someone else. And I think that was, a lovely part of the transition that I had is that I felt all the way along they wanted me to be successful. And then it builds that, a nice little confidence. You think, you know what? People are supporting me. They want the school to be successful. They want me to be successful. And the funny thing is, I would say the students feel that too. When new students come in, they'll often say to me, you know what? I feel like this community wants me to be successful.
Yeah.
I'm like, I felt that.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I was wondering about is whenever you take over, I was talking to a director at a school board. He signed his new 4-year term, right? And he was talking to me and said, I don't know if I'm going to stay 4 years. And one of the things he said was the previous director at that school board, he said stayed 2 years too long. And he was loved so much, but because of his final 2 years, maybe he didn't leave in the way that he should have.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things he said is one of the jobs of a good leader is to know when it's time to leave and when it's time to stay. Now, I find that that's very hard in education because we all love our school so much. And I assume it's really hard to even move on from anything because you have such an attachment and affinity to the students, to the school, to the staff. But how do you think about that in terms of, each head of school, they serve in their schools, but how do you know? How do you know when it's like, okay, I'm done? Or is it more like you wait for another school? Like, what does that look like?
Maybe it comes if you feel like you're in a rhythm and it's just, you're not kind of pushing the boundaries anymore and you're just feeling maybe a bit bored. Because if you're feeling that way, then are you really helping to grow the school in a dynamic way? So, and I don't feel that way by any stretch. I feel there's so much for us to do. But maybe that's a piece of it that people might feel that, I need a new challenge. Often when people apply to the school, they say, I'm looking for a new challenge. And then that's an indicator of, maybe they need a new environment to have a new challenge.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's interesting. And so what does a day look like? If I was to come and shadow you for a day, would we be running around?
This job. You would love this job. I know this.
What does that look like? What does a day look like?
It's so different. Every day is different. It's such a
I already love it.
Yeah, it's so great. Anything from, we're constructing 2 new buildings on site. So I'm meeting with construction companies, construction managers. I'm handling deadlines and, donations, and all sorts of things. Curriculum meetings, intense curriculum meetings about how to design the best program, thinking about the future of education, meeting with kids, dealing with conflicts between parents, it's a people enterprise.
Yeah.
Right? You're always going to have people that you have to help get along and help figure out that there's a common piece that you're striving for. And let's understand the commonality and then we'll understand our differences. Finances and finance meetings, the board.
Really is like the CEO in front of everything.
It's all the layers. Yeah. It's a fantastic job.
Do you think the kids are scared of you?
Are they scared of me? No, I don't think so. I'm really lucky because I have some people on the leadership team that are in, like assistant head positions, and they are, they're more disciplinarian than me.
Yeah,
so I get to really enjoy them. I get to be the one that says, okay, this bad thing happened.
Yeah.
And I can give you a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, you're the nice one.
A little bit, yeah. I get to play that role.
Very nice. And you were talking a little bit about the future of education. I think it's a good time even to learn more. But you're writing a book, or you've written a book as well, that surrounds the topic around the future of education. I think there's a lot more question marks than answers right now around what education is going to look like with technology and what students want and what they don't want.
Yeah.
What's your thought on it? What's your perspective? And you could share a little bit about your book. I don't know if I could get a copy at some point, but I'd love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do another podcast just about the book too if you want.
But let us know, what's that book about? What's the premise and what inspired you to say, you know what? I'm going to write a book about the future of education.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, an absolute sense of urgency because we cannot keep doing what we're doing. It's crazy. We're going to be completely obsolete. And some of these, schools that are, independent private schools, they, rest on the laurels of, history and tradition. And that's great. But you can't keep running traditional schooling and think that somehow you're not going to be replaced by IT.
Yeah.
Like AI, it offers interactive, customized, personalized learning and tracking of the learning with students. I mean, we're at the beginning like this, the edge of the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah.
In 3 years' time, you'll laugh to think that you ever thought that the teacher was the sage on the stage or the the person with all the information. I mean, we can't keep doing what we're doing. And what we can do and what we need to do is what AI and tech could never offer, ever. And we need to amplify that. Really engaging kids with the real world, with mentors and, experts who are struggling to make a difference and have the students realize firsthand what that struggle looks like and be a part of it and engage in it and find who they are and find their passions along the way and figure out what they might want to do and that they can be people that can contribute. Because right now, like there was a survey done by the CASE, it's the accrediting independent bodies. I think there were like 6,000 students that took this little survey. And the number of students that said, because one of the questions was, I feel hopeful about the future, right? There's like, I forget the exact number. It was like 75% of kids said, no.
That's
Are you
concerning.
kidding me?
Yeah.
I do something that feels real and meaningful. No.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Oh my gosh, what are we doing in school? So the book is about that. And it's about philosophy and a methodology. to actually show schools how they can do it, how they can scale it up, how it can be meaningful, and how you can track success within it, and how it still works within the system. You're not trying to break the system in doing it, but you're reimagining everything from the planning to the assessment stage of a child's experience.
I love that. It sounds like it's also something that's more tactical, which I think we're missing a lot because everyone's talking about it. But it's like, how do I do it? Like if I'm ahead of school and tomorrow morning I'm like, okay, sold. What do I do on day 1? What do I do on day 2, right?
Yeah, that's the piece they don't know. They don't know how to operationalize it. And even when they see it, they say, oh, I could never do that in my school. I'm like, are you kidding me? Here's a map.
Does it happen at Pickering today? Is it an ideal model that you have designed, or do you think you still have work to get where you want?
You'll always be changing and adapting the model, always, because you're trying to fine tune and make it more efficient, right? And make it as meaningful as possible, and build community partnerships as you do it. So you've got to bring people into your mix. But we do it in spades here at Pickering College. We really I started playing with curriculum quite intentionally in Korea. And we won the International School of the Year award for the work that we were doing. That was basically, this model. And that's out of 18,000 schools we won.
Wow, that's incredible.
Being recognized for that was unbelievable. And the work at Pickering College is even better. Like it's so, of course I'm going to say that I'm at Pickering College, right? But I can't even tell you how great it is. It's so phenomenal. But the book kind of encapsulates that philosophy, and it's called Connections, Academics, and Purpose, Designing the Future of School. And the real shift is right now, if a teacher wants to plan a lesson, right? They look at the curriculum and they think, okay, what unit do I need to do? Okay, I'm going to do a unit on forces, right? I think grade 6 science, right? Random, right? Okay, fine. I'm going to look at that and look up what I need to do. And I'm going to think, okay, what do I want them to do by the end of that unit? And what will be the little assessment that they do? And maybe I'll try and make it individualized in the sense that they have some choice within it, right?
And what happened last semester?
Yeah, and all of that. Yeah, and then they plan it, right? And they plan it out and they try to make it really engaging for kids and interesting. But the truth is, every assignment a student does, it's for the teacher, right? And the teacher assesses it, the teacher gives it back, and then it's done. One off, everybody is doing the same kind. If there's a test, everybody writes the same test.
Yeah.
Why? Why does it have to happen like that? And how is the child going to feel inspired or pushed to do the best they can if they know that the best is just for a grade or for teacher feedback, right? But what if it were real?
Right.
What if it was something that someone else needed in the world and I was filling that need, and it better be the very best it could possibly be because it's going to be used, right? Now, all of a sudden, I'm in kind of a design cycle loop, right? And the student has to go back and forth until it's of the highest quality that you need in order for you to do whatever you need to do it with, right? Whatever that is. So it ups the game of the student learning. It ups the game of the student interaction with the experts and the feedback, right? And it produces a win-win because that individual or company or not-for-profit or whoever we're working with, they engaged positively with the school and got something out of it that they needed. And the students' learning was skyrocketed because of the work they did.
So are there no exams at Pickering?
Oh, yeah, there are lots of exams. And you still do all the things.
Yeah.
But you make these moments and these opportunities within it, and you amplify them as much as you can so that students are doing things that are real. And then they're, getting excited about it, feeling confident, feeling successful, feeling they can talk to anyone about anything, right?
Yeah.
That idea of being respected and respectful when talking to anyone. You want a student to leave feeling they know how to collaborate, they know how to work with people, they know how to work with a client, right? And receive feedback that's critical and respond to it, right?
Do you think there's a world where the exams just disappear? There's never we're all sitting in the classroom and we're all writing the same exam.
Yeah.
And then if you get a 70, you get a 70.
Yeah, there is. That's my second book. I haven't started writing that one yet. I have to publish this one first. My second
no
book
exams,
is all about, well, no, it's all about assessment. Because okay, so look at medicine, right? 10 years ago, you had cancer. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Stage 4, it was terrible. Anyway, you had cancer. They gave you a cocktail of drugs, right? It was generic. It was chemotherapy that we hoped would work. And it was just general poison we put in your body in the hopes that it'll figure it out, right? Or you had depression.
Yeah.
We gave you a generic drug because we didn't know anything that was happening inside your brain, right? We laugh at that now and we look at how ridiculous was that. If I don't know your genome and your sequence and I don't know exactly where your mutation is or I don't know exactly the biochemistry of your brain, I, in good faith, cannot give you a medicine, right, today.
Yeah.
Because it's personalized, it's individualized for you. education will become that. It has to, right? We have the tech to track individually, student by student, line by line. Did they learn this in what context to what level? Did they learn this in what context to what level? We can check it off. Why do I need to give you the same test as your brother and you sit there writing a 40-minute test that's timed, that is on exactly the same material at the same time that you're supposed to learn it in the same way? How is that helpful?
Right.
But if I can have you learn it in some context that's meaningful for you, and I can track that learning and even get testimonials from others that you worked with that said, yeah, I can authenticate that Duraj learned that and blah, blah, blah. I can check it off, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, a grade means something different. It's completely transparent because I can see what I learned and what I need to learn next, right? I can start designing as a student my own, projects that I want to be involved in because I say, I need to learn, I need to show that I can do these 3 things. So I'm going to do this project. It's kind of like, as I'm talking, I'm thinking like, do you remember back in the day, I don't know if you know about the Boy Scouts and Girl Guides and you get these badges, right? So I would get a badge for starting a fire. It's not because I theoretically knew how to start a fire. It's because I actually started a fire, right? Hopefully one that was
I was going to say, one that you knew that you were starting.
Exactly. And I got the badge, right? Well, I could learn the badge. I could earn the badges in any order I wanted, right? I could get help to whatever level I needed help until I mastered that skill on my own, right? So it was a mastery level, individualized, personalized, and tracked because I could see all my badges. Well, curriculum, unpack it, repack it, make it about me. And that needs to happen next. And the thing is, we have all the tech that will allow us to do it.
But do you think the universities will also react? Because when I went to campus, we're still doing midterms and we're still doing our finals and they still weigh 80% of our final grade in most courses. So
and they're slow to change. Really slow.
They're maybe even arguably slower sometimes in schools. So
right, but then you have to ask, well, what does a 90 mean, right? And if I can show that you've learned all of this and extended it in these 3 ways, and that therefore you earned that 95, let's say you got a 97, you were great, right?
I'm used to that now.
And in addition to that, you can show evidence of that learning and you can speak to it in an interview with the university. You'll get into every program and you'll get every scholarship. And that's what we found is that, there's a school out east and they offer a high-end full ride scholarship. Pickering College students have earned that scholarship 3 years running. So much so the university said, is this, what's going on here? Why is it your students that are earning our scholarships? We're like, because we meet those criteria. The students can talk about a sustained activity that was meaningful, that they led, and that they learned tremendous amount from, and that they could show their impact in their learning and speak to it. And that coupled these high grades that they received. Why wouldn't you give them a scholarship? So I think that the universities might be slow to change after. That's their issue. We can change and still meet the requirements to get in. And if we do that, we can slowly change the system. And I feel like that's one of the things that I like about independent schools, because I'm a product of the public system. I think that public education is the backbone of, a society functioning well and doing well. As soon as you lose core high value education, your citizens don't necessarily make good decisions and they don't know how to. And I think it's really important. But in an independent school, we can be playful in a way that they can't.
More experimental.
And if we can show and document how it can be done and then show how it can be scaled up, we can change the public system, right? Like if you look at even small changes that happened over the years, like an advisory program, they're regular in all schools now. They started. The first advisory program ever was at Pickering College. We led the way. And now it's ubiquitous, right? If you look at all sorts of, wellness, student support, all sorts of things, they started in the independent system and then were copied. We want people
Once
to be
they validated
copycats.
Would you say you're a risk taker when it comes to things like that? Like you're not afraid to say, hey, let's try something different.
Maybe I'm too much of a risk taker, but I feel like if you take the risk and it doesn't work, then you've already done a whole bunch of thinking to get there. And all you need to do is pivot and learn because progress doesn't look like this, right? Like you have to figure it out.
Not everything's going to work.
But it looks like this. It's kind of like the stock market. It goes up and down, but
eventually 5 years,
it does go up.
it goes up.
And as long as you believe in that and you work hard and you adjust when it doesn't work, then the risk is worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that might even be related to this is one of the programs that you run at the school, which you were talking about. I think it's called the Spark program is what we have here. Is that what you're talking about, where they're meeting
It's
with?
one of many programs, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about that one, because that was the most interesting one to me,
Was it?
selfishly. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a program we started in the middle school here, intentionally in middle school, because that's a time when students are trying to figure out who are they, how do they get, like, friendships change in middle school,
Yeah.
go through puberty. It's a hard time, you know? Some people say it's when you should knock them with a hammer and wait 3 years, right? But it's such an important time, because they also say that, you know, that the team, like the sports team you root for in middle school, will be the sports team you're rooting for when you're 55.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You form your identity at those years, right? So SPARC is spelled SPARC, so instead of K, and it stands for Student Projects Advancing Real Change.
Okay.
So that specific project, it happens every Wednesday. Students are off timetable, and they get to pick. So it's cross-grade grouping. So if I'm in grade 6 and you're in grade 8, but we both like the same project, we can do the same project together.
Yeah.
You have 20 kids, 2 teachers, so it's a nice ratio of like 1 to 10, right? And students, we pitch. So the teachers pitch their projects and say, here are 5 projects or 6, you know, to a group of about, 80 kids, and pick what you want, right? So they have choice. And then within the project, they get choice again for what piece of it they want to do. And each project has to have a win-win with a community partner. It has to have, detailed curriculum that there's a common set of curriculum that are common across all the pieces. Like I have to present to an audience. I have to write a 5-paragraph essay. I have to, the common curriculum. But then there's also unique curriculum within each project as well. So we can track
specific to that project. Okay.
That's right. And that might be different for each child as well. So I might do something different within a project than you, right?
Okay. So that's something different. What is an example?
Oh gosh, I'm just thinking there's so many examples. It's crazy. Okay, so we partnered with a woman who was starting up a new company, and it was for service dogs.
Okay.
Right? So she needed a company logo and marketing materials, right? She needed collars and harnesses that would, work with these animals. And as the animals grew, she needed a whelping pen to raise the pups, right? Like she's starting a business. So we said, hey, we'll do a design and build component here. We'll do a marketing and designing component. We'll do a writing campaign. We'll do like whatever you need, right? She's like, oh, will they do good work? I'm like, yeah, they will, because you'll tell us no until it's good.
Yeah.
And I swear those kids, the logo alone, they must have gone through 100 or maybe 200 logos until that woman was happy.
Yeah.
And she just kept saying, it's not quite right. Just like you would with
a real
client. Yeah.
But what I like about that is it's not being discounted to say, oh, they're just high school kids. Let them do it once or twice, and then you feel bad and say, okay, you know what, it's good enough, and then you throw it out the bin later on.
Yeah.
It's more like, no, we keep going until you're going to use it.
That's right, until I use it.
Yeah.
We did another project with a group of seniors, because we were talking to the mayor and we said, what's the biggest issue in the town? And he said, one issue is that we've got all these seniors and they're alone in their houses and they're isolated and they're not doing well, like mentally, like mental health, And how can we get them so that they get out of their houses, so they get talking to each other?
And they socialize a little bit more, right?
Yeah. We thought, well, maybe they will leave their house, maybe they won't. But what if we could create a game that they could play with other seniors, and they could trust the seniors in the game because it was a closed game.
Yeah.
And it would be a game they'd really like. And it would make them more interactive and less alone.
Yeah.
Right? So we said, we'll have the students develop computer games for the seniors. But first we have to invite them in, the groups that will come with us first, and we'll play games with them and see what they like and why they like it, and what they don't like and why. And we talked about everything from dexterity to how quick the game is, or if it's a word, number, or letter, or, shoot them down kind of game, whatever it was, right? And the students had to build the games.
And these are middle school kids?
Middle school kids, yeah.
Wow.
So then we brought in video game designers, and they had to teach the kids and work with the kids for how to develop a game, right? And then we developed our own expertise with the teachers to help them, right? And then we would bring in people that help to, how do you make it so it's kind of like a sexy game, so it's kind of marketed and looks professional, you know? And then the seniors would come back, well, I'm just not going to play your game because, you know what, I thought it would be interesting, but no. Or it's boring, or it was too hard, or I don't really care. And they had to redesign the game until the seniors were happy with the game. So now think of the takeaway for students, right? They're learning coding.
Yeah.
They're learning tech.
They're learning how to engage with people to understand the problems.
They're learning how to present it and receive feedback that's critical, right? And they're helping to solve an issue, right? Another example, we worked with a company called Blue Door. You have to stop me because I could give you 20 examples.
Yeah, I want to hear the Blue Door one. Okay,
I'll tell you this one more and then that's it. So Blue Door is a company that they're trying to help the homeless issue, right? So they wanted to build a homeless shelter in Aurora, which is our neighboring town.
Yeah.
And they brought it to the city council, and they voted no. Not everybody, but I think it was like a 4-3 vote no, right? So they didn't get approval to build the shelter. And so we were meeting with them. So we always start with the companies or the people or the organizations, and we say, well, what do you need? What are your biggest problems? What do you struggle with, right? And they said, well, I don't know. And I don't know what kids could do. Like, that's where it always starts. And then we said, well, no, really, don't think about kids. Just what do you struggle with? And they're like, we really wish that this hadn't been shut down because we worked so hard and we really had the location, we had the funding, we wanted it to happen. And we're like, so why do you think it was shut down? Well, there's a stigma about homelessness. Right?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, maybe there's something in there students could do. So the students took that, right? And they said, yeah, we could write the stories of how Blue Door helps people and the impact of this company on changing that homeless experience, right?
Yeah.
And we could help reduce the stigma of homelessness and tell different stories of how people might find themselves homeless for a short period of time or whatever, right? So the students had to research, talk to different organizazations that were trying to help people. There's an outreach van, there's 360 Kids, there's the different organizations, right? And they had to meet with them and talk about what was happening on the streets. Right. Why were people homeless? What were they like? Who were they? How did they get there? Yeah. And they wrote this lengthy storybook. And then they invited in town councillor that had voted no.
Oh, wow.
And they presented it to him. And they said, let's have a discussion around it. And at the end of the session, the fellow said, maybe I voted wrong.
Yeah.
That's impact. Yeah. And Blue Door now has that storybook that they can share with others.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, that book, I think it did need more editing, to be fair, because it needed to go back and forth more, and we've kind of ran out of time. But we can do that now as well, right?
Yeah.
But it was good quality, and it helps students to empathize and understand what's happening in their society. It helps organizations. It helps, it builds a connected community and an informed citizenship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've done projects where we're trying to help with mall safety for teenagers and for others in malls. Projects with a telecommunications company that, was getting all of their utility boxes were getting vandalized. And we, created artwork for the utility boxes and then wanted to amplify local artists so that we could celebrate them through this work as well and then get them working with our students so that they could lift the game of the artwork. We did a project, I'm now just talking beyond Spark, but like across the program, grade 1 students were looking at, the unit was just go and visit this apple tree 4 times a year and see what happens to the apple tree.
Yeah.
Right. Learn about nature. Okay, fine. But they got there, and the previous year, there were tons of apples, and then this year there were no apples. And they went down this whole journey of what does the tree need?
Yeah.
And what's wrong? And they learned about pollination. We now have 6 beehives at the farm.
Okay, wow.
They learned about, pruning, what happens with an elderly tree, what do different types of trees need? Why do you need different ages of different trees in the same space? What happens with
I don't even know some of those answers. It's great.
That's great.
It's great one. You probably know more than I do about trees now.
And they created a book that they then, could share about their journey about learning about how to care for a tree.
Do you usually find these partners? Because I know schools like this sounds pretty cool. But then I assume these companies aren't necessarily immediately thinking, oh, let me call Pickering College because I have this huge issue. So are you doing a lot of the, hey, do you have something? Is it more connect? How do you build these community partnerships?
Yeah, it's all different. Like the Telmax people, I was sitting at a chamber of event, Chamber of Commerce event, and I happened to sit beside one of the guys from Telmax. And then we're like, well, what are your problems? What do you struggle with?
Yeah. Every person you go to, you're like, what do you struggle with?
Exactly. Yeah. But the apple tree thing was organic. I don't know, each project comes differently. But now that we've done more and more, they're coming to us. So,
hey, that was really good. Can you do this again? Or
2 weeks
we
ago,
have more problems. Yeah,
exactly. 2 weeks ago, we hosted the local historical society. They said, "Oh, this is a historic building. Can we come for a visit?" We're like, "Yeah, of course." And then we told them about the program, and just talked about our vision of education. And they toured around, whatever. At the end of the night, 3 people had come up to me and said, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this?
Yeah.
Can you, we want to digitize our archives and organize them. Oh my gosh, talk about a great project for kids to learn history, to learn digitization, to get it to a high quality, to organize it and figure out how does a town, file and categorize. And oh
That's
my gosh, it's a
interesting.
great project. Yeah. Anyway, 2 other projects as well have come from that. I'm like, they're coming to us now.
So how many do you do in a semester? Give or take.
Oh, well, it's different in every grade, right?
Yeah.
So like in 9 and 10, they're integrated projects that happen throughout the course of the year, and it's kind of a sustained project.
Okay.
And in grade 10, it's a new project we're building next year that has like 4 different partners, and students can pick which partner they want to work with. Okay. But it happens pocketed throughout the year. Whereas in the 6 to 8 program, it's multi-age groupings that happen each term, and you can pick your projects each term. In the junior school, it's more teacher-directed, right? So we did one with a local pig farm. And we looked at what do you need? What are you? What do you struggle with? And there's no place. The pigs get really itchy.
Okay, yeah.
There's no place for them to get respite.
Yeah.
And they built these scratchers, like big
Really?
thick posts, these big, like brushes against them.
Yeah.
The pigs love.
I mean, I will say that sounds so relevant.
Yeah, exactly. So the kids were learning about how does the farm work?
Yeah.
How does industry work? So they can understand, why do you have a company that has all these pigs? What do they do with them? How does the world work, right?
Yeah.
And then within that, what do you struggle with, and what can I do? And I'm learning about how to build and hammer and glue and whatever. And
I'm jealous. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great project. That was grade 2 this year.
Wow.
Anyway, so it depends. Like some come from the teachers, some come from the admin. When we hear about a company, and we just throw it out to say, does anybody want to work with these people?
Yeah.
Others from the students themselves.
Oh, maybe their parents have something, or
yeah, we have lots of parents that come in and say, "Oh, I love this. I want to be involved.
Yeah.
Can I either participate to contribute, like as one of the experts? Like that's how we got the video game developers, right?
Yeah.
Or I have a problem. Can you help me with it?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'm gonna have to email you more about that because that's so interesting.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we try. I think one of the things we did recently was we got students to redesign a wheelchair, which was so much fun. We redesigned it for Paralympic soccer players. We redesigned it for, and we knew nothing about Paralympic soccer. And then we watched a video. We're like, that looks uncomfortable, So we tried to redesign it. We used, user empathy. We did empathy maps, did all the fun stuff. One of the groups designed it for kids. They're like, they're too boring looking. They maybe aren't treated the same way because the wheelchair isn't as fun looking. So we redesigned that. And so I think I started to realize that there's so much potential there. I used to underestimate it I never grew up in a space where I was allowed to express it even as a kid. So now when I originally when I started working with high school kids, I thought they would need a lot more like guidance. And now I'm saying it's the opposite. Like they're guiding me. Yeah. And they're saying, hey, what about this?
Endless time. Yeah. If they're passionate about it,
they love it.
They'll go into deep rabbit holes of hundreds of hours.
And I find it so magnificent because I genuinely think that that's where real learning happens because they're, one, speaking to people that inspire them, that they can learn from. Yeah. But 2, they're getting the experience of saying, hey, whatever you're doing is real. It's not made up, right? And so you better be on your best behavior and you bring your best foot forward because you're going to be interacting with real people. Yeah. I think that's incredible. Yeah. I
like the wheelchair idea.
It's really fun. Yeah, I'll send you a bit about it. You could use it. They loved it. And it was integrated with technology too. So some of the kids were like into a lot of robotics. Yeah. So that was baked into it as well.
Yeah. And that's what they need. They need coding, robotics, tech integration. Yeah. Hands down. They need collaboration and meaningful interactions with people. They need confidence, social skills, and then they need also the core, learning. Yeah. They need to understand, how can I learn the science of soil to understand how to enrich the soil bed that's been depleted from 3 years of corn there. Yeah. They learn the basics.
Yeah, the foundation of it all. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's...
What is pH? Yeah. What is a nitrate? How does that work in soil?
There's a lot of
going down one rabbit hole there, but
No, but you're right. And you also, one of the things that we were reading about is you credit Robert Wilson a lot. At least we've seen that and I'll quote this, for teaching you to look for simplicity within the complex. Running a school is very complicated, right? A huge school like Pickering. What does that mean to you? Like, what does it mean to look into simplicity? What does it mean not to look into the whole thing that's behind the curtains as well?
Yeah. It's just taking pause and thinking about what matters most. And allowing yourself to take that pause to figure that out. And then to focus on that first, right? So you can get mired in the details of things or feel overwhelmed. I was talking to a lady at lunch today who works in our development team. She said, I just feel so overwhelmed. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
And we just sat together and talked, and we kind of figured out actually all of the things she does fits into 3 buckets. So let's put those things in the 3 buckets and then decide, well, where of those 3, where do you need to put your most amount of time this summer? And where might be something that you don't focus on as much until the fall?
Yeah.
You know? And then we left the meeting and she was like, oh, just seeing that.
Makes you feel a little bit at ease.
Yeah. You're like, oh, wait a minute. I get this. I'm seeing it through a different lens, and I'm thinking about it through what matters most, but not allowing yourself to get stuck in that like a hamster on a wheel. Go. Just kind of go, wait a minute. What matters? We do a lot of that at the school, actually. We're a Quaker-founded school, the only one in Canada, K-12 Quaker-founded school. And it doesn't mean like we're not a religious school. It's very secular, but the values are consistent for anybody from any background. And it grounds and connects people. And one of the values is simplicity. And I know it's going to sound strange because it's a very strange thing we do. It's a very Quaker thing, and it's so powerful.
Yeah.
We get together in a meeting room.
This is students or just staff?
Students. We do it with staff too. And you just sit quietly. And it could be 10 minutes. It could be half an hour. And you just sit quietly, and there are all the people in the room. And if somebody's moved to say something or speak, they do. And if they're not, then it's just quiet. And you're looking at each other, and maybe you're thinking,
but you can't be on your phones or anything like that.
Yeah, or maybe, no phones.
It's just like reflecting or taking a moment.
Take a moment. And sometimes I'll think about my things I have to do that day and kind of organize them. Sometimes I'll look and think, I was kind of mean to him yesterday, and I hope he feels okay. And then I might think, I'll make sure I go and talk to him, make sure we're okay, or I think about the relationships in the room too, or.
So when does this happen? In the morning? It's first thing in the morning? Is it every day?
Not every day, but every week. We do a morning meeting, and in each morning meeting, there's a moment of reflection and silence. And then in addition to that, we'll have meetings that are just for silence. And, kids, you're on your phone. You're looking at a screen. Your mind is busy all the time. And if you just pause, short time.
It's kind
of like meditation, but you're not being asked to do anything.
You're giving your brain a break, right? From your phone or from people, from whatever it is, right? That's very powerful.
It's really lovely, yeah. And Bob Wilson, he was a powerful influencer in my life. He was my PhD supervisor. Yeah, lovely, lovely man.
And that was when when you're writing a PhD. And what was that about? What was the
my PhD?
About? Yeah.
It was about assessment. I was looking at large-scale assessment and the influence of changing the paradigm into more of a performance-based assessment, and what was the influence on teaching and learning. Because we know that large-scale assessments narrow the curriculum because teachers teach to the test.
Yeah.
And we wanted to see if we adjusted the test, could we adjust teaching in a positive way instead of a negative way?
Right.
This was the beginning of the development of the grade 9 assessment for mathematics. So I helped to be part of the development team.
How fun.
And I did that as part of my PhD. And then I produced my PhD, my thesis, and that got published. But then I produced a different report just for the testing center, EQAO it's called. And it was just for their eyes.
Wow.
And fair enough, they paid me for it, which is lovely. I helped fund the PhD. But I gave a series of recommendations within it.
Yeah.
And within 2 years, I think all but 2 of my recommendations had been put in place. And I felt like that was real.
That's real.
So many people do a PhD and it's
just a paper.
It's just a paper, but that felt real.
Wow.
So that goes back to
you're bringing that here too.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to shift gears into what we call the final question. So we have a bit of a tradition here.
Okay.
Our previous guests leave questions for our future guests, and then you'll have the opportunity to leave a question too. So I may ask you too, depending on how. I'm going to start with this one, which is a question from, I don't know if you know, Leanne Foster.
Yes.
Okay, you know Leanne?
She's lovely. She's at UTS.
Yeah, well, the question isn't so lovely.
Oh, no. How could you?
Her question is, what is one thing you need to stop doing in order to be a better leader?
Maybe being so excited to share my idea. I need to just make sure that before I share any of my ideas, everyone else gets a chance to share their idea. And that I listen as much as I can. And I try to, but maybe I could do it better, even more.
Yeah. Maybe you're excited too, right? Maybe.
Yeah. I get excited, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm the same way. Guilty. Next one I'm going to ask you one more. It's from Katie Young. She's at Holy Trinity School. She leads their internship program there.
Okay.
Her question is, how has your definition of success changed throughout your career?
We talked about that, yeah. And how do you define success, and how do you need to change that as you get more mature? Because I think, when you're younger, people think, well, just being able to afford my own apartment is
Yeah.
success, right?
In the city, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Or I get a spouse or a partner that loves me,
Yeah.
success. But then as you check off all the things of success, it changes. I think when we're younger, we think that success is more about like what we'll do individually. But the more that we actually realize the only way to do things is together, and how we work with other people and how we make them feel.
Yeah.
That's a huge measure of success, is that you make other people feel good about themselves, and that you, yeah, I know. I mean, it's the small things, isn't it? Because it's not tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe success is not supposed to be tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Time goes by really fast. I'm sorry. I probably made you miss what you were meant to go to. So
That's okay.
I apologize, but it's been really thoughtful. And I just appreciate you taking out the time, spending some time with us and just opening up a little bit. I hope that these things help other people too, as they navigate their careers, as they people who would sometimes email and say, hey, this was helpful. I'm thinking about going to teachers college. Or the teachers that say, I don't know if I want to be a principal.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be a head of school. Right. And sometimes it's just a conversation that could help, right?
Yeah.
One short video, something like that could help someone. So
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think it's really worthwhile what you're doing.
yeah, I appreciate you doing this for us. Thank you.